Happy Wednesday, everybody. And Jim Amadeus here with you. And Amadeus, we're talking in the pre-show. It's Messi's world, and we're just renting.
Yeah, Messi, he's done nothing but dominate since he came into the league. He's been killing it in this league's cup so far. Another massive win that was huge. On the road at Subaru Park against one of the better teams in the MLS for sure. So not an easy Philadelphia team to beat. They were up like 4-0 by halftime. So definitely looks like they're going to go all the way and probably take home this league's cup. Like I said, don't expect Miami to do anything for the rest of the season. Maybe they can squeak into the playoffs. I'm not sure how many points the MLS will be restarting soon on August 20th. Obviously, after this final, that's going to be Nashville.
They'll lower the points scale just to make sure.
Yeah, that's actually it's an interesting question now, right? Because there is still quite a few games left, and
there's a lot of games to play.
Yeah. So right now Miami's in dead last. They have 18 points, and so I believe the 9th spot they expanded it to 9.
Yeah, they put 9 out there.
Yeah, 8 and 9 to the playoffs. So DC has 30 points,
right?
And realistically, that's only 4 wins, that 12 points, and at the rate Miami has been winning, and normally a team wouldn't be able to do that. That's in the position Miami's in, but considering the circumstances with the acquisition of Messi and how he's just dominated in this league's cup, I could see DC losing 4 road games and Miami just going on a tear. So who knows? Actually, maybe this Miami team can slip into the.
I'm sorry, I'm ahead of DC. I don't have their. I don't have the standings pulled up.
Who's ahead of them?
Yeah.
So it's the
next amount of points.
So it's DC 9th with 30. Then it's Chicago in 8th with 32.
Okay, so either one of those 2 teams is reachable.
Yeah, and then it's Atlanta in 7th with 35.
Okay.
And then Columbus 36, Orlando 37, Nashville 38. So they're all kind of bunched up until you get up to about Philadelphia, who's 40, and then in New England 43, and Cincinnati just blowing everybody out of the water with 51 points.
And we've seen it in hockey where teams get off to a bumpy start, but then when they get on a roll and they start racking the points up, I wish we had Rye here. It's like drafty in stock car racing. All of a sudden, the number 9 car in that draft suddenly is the number 2 car, and then the suddenly number 1 car. I'm not saying they're going to catch Cincinnati, but certainly, Washington and those are catchable games. But what was interesting last night was Philly decided they were going to come out and be physical, and they thought that would be the way to go. And by halftime, you realized that not only was it not the way to go, it literally worked against them. And it's like, they didn't adjust quick enough to get there, and they were making all kinds of mental mistakes. And you're like, wait a minute, this is a quality team. What the hell are they doing? And they're in front of their own home crowd, which was not necessarily all for them, but it was amazing. You expected better. And Nashville's a tough place to play, but it will be interesting Saturday how this whole thing plays out.
Yeah, so I guess Nashville is going to have the home advantage for that, which is very interesting. But we'll see how that one pans out for sure. Going back to this Miami team, like a great example was just a few years ago in the NHL when the St. Louis Blues were in last place in January, and that was the year they won the Stanley Cup. So you can definitely get hot. And I'm looking at the schedule right now, and so there's 12 matches left for Miami in the season,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm looking at some of these matchups, right? So they got a
Right.
home match to Charlotte, they got a home match to Kansas City, they got a home match to Toronto and New York City FC, on the road to Chicago, on the road again against Charlotte. So these are all winnable matches. So realistically, and some of these other ones, right? Like Orlando on the road, 100% they can win that. That's not much of a travel for them. And even the one in Atlanta, Atlanta's a great home team, but
Mm-hmm.
obviously, this Messi team is something else. And they also have one at home against Nashville, which we'll see what they do in the League's Cup final, because if they dismantle them, that's a winnable match. So realistically, of these 12 matches, let's say they won 8 of those.
Mm-hmm.
That's 24 points, and then that's especially if some of these teams like DC or Chicago go on a bad run, because DC is not great and they really struggle on the road. So who knows? Maybe this Miami team can slip into the playoffs this year. It'll be interesting. And also looking at the schedule, they're in the semifinal of the U.S. Open Cup against Cincinnati, which is starting back up on August 23rd. So that's going to be interesting too, because now you got to think, if they go on to win this League's Cup, they got to be a real contender to go on and win the U.S. Open Cup as well.
Mm-hmm. That'd be 2 pieces of hardware they haven't got. and I know that a lot of people were excited, and I know that they already started in Nashville saying, please don't sell your tickets, which is like, basically saying, please don't accept money, because we know what's going to happen. The Messi fans are going to, travel to Nashville and, buy those tickets. And, we talked about it yesterday. It was like watching Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or Ohtani or any number of different people. You want to see that person play, and you want to see that person, do well. And Lord knows that, Messi's got an army of fans out there that will follow him anywhere. And so far they've proven that they would. So, championship game, Nashville's an easy place to get in out of. And so that would be, I would think that tickets, are probably going to, be, they were 400 and in some cases $500 yesterday. You're probably getting 500-600, maybe even more for games for the championship game in Nashville.
Yeah, 100%. So we'll see how that goes, right? Let's see if they can win their first piece of silverware.
Yep, I mean it'd be interesting. I'm sure he's Messi says, okay, accomplishments this season, win the World Cup, check. Win the League's Cup, absolutely. That was number 2 on my list. So good on him. Anyway, amazing situation. So where are we today? Got a lot of games going on for the Premiership.
Yeah, there's really not too much going on. It is the EFL Cup there, the Carabao Cup, but I don't know. I don't really watch those. There's only the one match too for QPR and Norwich. So
watches those.
Yeah, the big match today is actually the UEFA Super Cup. We have obviously the Champions League champions Manchester City taking on the Europa League champions Sevilla.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's
and is that started yet, or that?
No, that one starts at 3:00. So right after this, you can catch the UEFA Super Cup. That one is on a neutral site.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, I forget where, but I can double check right now.
Well, the point is, we know who the 2 teams are. So
yeah, it's in Greece.
Yeah.
So that's definitely obviously a big one. Manchester City, they missed out on winning the Community Shield that first really pre-match before the season started. They showed up big against Burnley on Friday, and now they have a chance to win another trophy here, which would, I guess, be their first of the season. But you got to think that they're motivated just because obviously they had never won the Champions League. And now that they had won the Champions League, this would actually be their first appearance in the Super Cup because you have to win, that or the Europa League to get there. So this would be a good chance for them to take home the UEFA Super Cup.
And excuse me. And that would be, that'd be a phenomenal way to start things off, right?
Yeah, it would definitely give them some confidence and a boost going forward. So hopefully, they would just be able to put that Arsenal loss behind in the Community Shield and carry on with the season.
I'm just, winning anything like this, I think, is so important to the to the mindset of the team, right? You get, especially getting wins like that. That's a good one. You want to just keep back and say, hey, look, we've done well. Life goes on. We can. I mean, it can help you as you spur yourself on to the rest of the season.
Yeah, definitely, and I'm sure they want to emulate the same thing that Real Madrid did when they won the La Liga title and the Champions League title, because last year, even though they didn't really win any trophies, they were kind of close but no cigar in every competition except for the Copa del Rey. They did win the Copa del Rey, but they did the same thing. They won the La Liga title and the Champions League, and then they came out. Won the Super Cup, and they won the Club World Cup later in the year. So definitely these are competition. I'm sure Manchester City is going to want to come out, win the UEFA Super Cup now that they have a chance to. And this will be their first time in the Club World Cup, obviously, because that's the winners of each Champions League around the world. So that's going to be a trophy later on in the year. I think around usually it's in the new year. But that'll be one for sure that they'll probably be focused on winning, just because it's a new competition they've never been in, and they would have to win the Champions League again to get back there. Which obviously they always want to win the Champions League, but it's a very tough competition to win. So I think the Club World Cup will definitely be something they're focused on, because as good as they are, this might be their only opportunity at it. You don't know if they're going to win another Champions League again, right?
Right. Well, you can't assume
you gotta
anything.
take the chance while you can.
Right. You can't assume anything. And I think that's the key point here, is that you take what you can get and you fight for another day. And, you can ask the Buffalo Bills back in the day, winning a Super Bowl is not as easy as it looks. They went to 4 championship games and didn't, came back without the trophy. So it takes some time, that's for sure. Let's jump real quick over to the Major League Baseball. We got stuff going on this afternoon. Top of the 4th, Mets are beating the Pirates 3-2. Top 3, Twins and Tigers. Twins 4th, Tigers 3. A 3:10 first pitch start between the D-backs and the Rockies. That game's being played in Colorado. Denver. Scipione is pitching for the Diamondbacks. Gober is pitching for Gober's pitching for the Rockies. Rays Giants. Savelli for the band. Let me try this again. Giants hosting the Rays in a Bay-to-Bay game. Savelli is pitching for Tampa Bay. San Francisco's got Walker. They haven't hit a Miller yet, though. What's going on? That's strange. 6:40 games. We got the Reds and the Guardians of Belleville, Ohio. Syndergaard for Cleveland. Cincinnati will have Abbott. 6:40 in Miami. It's the Astros in town. Verlander pitching for Houston. Ricardo for Miami. Oakland is in St. Louis. That's also a 6:40 game. And it's Blackburn pitching for Oakland. It is Levator pitching for St. Louis. Red Sox Nationals out down the street at the park at Nationals Park, Paxton on the hill for Boston. And Washington has Gore's left-handed pitcher. A left-handed day today. But, actually, the Guardians, Astros, Marlins, Athletics, Cardinals, and Red Sox Nationals all have at least one left-handed pitcher. Must be left-handed Wednesday. Phillies and Jays at the Rogers Center tonight. That will be Aaron Nola against Kevin Gausman. Yankees at the Braves. I got a TBD on the Yankees. You got a pitcher for the Yankees. I
got a TBD as well.
Oh, okay. Then it might be Aaron Judge. Charlie Morton throwing for Atlanta tonight. Angels, Rangers, Detmers.
I think for the Yankees, it was supposed to be Randy Vasquez, but he might have got scratched, I guess.
Yeah, they scratched him. Gray pitching for Texas. Clevenger is pitching for the White Sox at the Cubs. I got a TBD on the Cubs as well.
Same.
So they don't know who's pitching. Royals, Mariners, that game is a 8-10 start in Kansas City. Castillo for Seattle. Kansas City's got MacArthur. Orioles, Padres, that's an 8:40 start out in San Diego. And Kramer is pitching for Baltimore, San Diego, Blake Snell. Dodgers, Brewers, that's a big game at 10-10. And Miley gets the ball for Milwaukee. The Dodgers give it to Clayton Kershaw. So there's your baseball for today. As I said, we have a couple games in progress and a couple more games getting ready to, get going right after us. So some quick observations on what's going on here as we get ready for the pennant stretch. Who's piquing your interest as we get down the stretch here?
Yeah, I still like these Mariners. I think the Blue Jays in that last wild card spot, they're a very inconsistent team at times. Mm-hmm. Sometimes their offense can go cold and it kills them. Sometimes they just have a stretch of bad pitching. So I think this Mariners team, especially since they've been catching fire lately, if they can just continue to do what they've been doing, they're only a few games out, and I think they can make this a very interesting race to the end with the Blue Jays for sure.
Absolutely. Let's go down. I'll give you the standings. That way we'll know where we are. Let's start with the AL East. You got Baltimore leading Tampa Bay by 3 games, and Toronto by 7.5. You've got Minnesota and Cleveland, and Minnesota leads the Guardians by 4.5 games, and Detroit is 9 games back. In the West, 3.5 games separate the first place Texas Rangers and their cross-state rivals, the Houston Astros. Seattle is 7.5 back. That's not something that they couldn't make up, but it's going to be tough when you got Houston and Texas ahead of you. Meanwhile, back over in the National League, in the East, it's not even close. Atlanta is 12.5 games ahead of Philadelphia, 15 ahead of Miami. Milwaukee leads the Cubs by 3. It seems like 3.5 and 3 is pretty much a key thing. Cincinnati and Chicago are tied at 3.5 games out. In the Central out West, it's getting late early, as the old saying goes. The Dodgers lead the G-Men by 9 games. So let's take a quick look at what our wild card standings are, as we talked about it, because you like those Mariners. Let's see how far they got to go. Right now the Rays are in the top spot. Houston is 2 games up on Toronto. Toronto's only 2 games up on the Seattle Mariners. So the Mariners are 2 games out of the wild card position. By the way, just for giggles, Boston and the Yankees. Boston's 3 games back, and the Yankees are 6.5 back. And those lucky little Angels that we said what a wonderful job they did by keeping Ohtani. They're 8 games back and fading fast. So That's what we got in the American League. In the National League, it's obviously Philadelphia. They're in kind of the same place they were last year. They're 2.5 games up in the wild card race. Miami is 1 game ahead of Chicago and 1 game ahead of Cincinnati and 2.5 games ahead of Arizona, and only 5.5 games out is San Diego. So you've got a log jam there, right outside of, with Miami. You've got 5.5 games separate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams. So it could get very interesting in the National League in that wild card situation there. Your thoughts on anything in the National League?
Yeah, it's a very interesting race. Obviously, we saw the Diamondbacks fall off. They're right back at 500 now, but still right in the race because there's so many teams right at that 500 mark. You have basically, the three in the NL Central there: Cubs, Reds, and Brewers are all pretty much, well, except for the Brewers, but the Cubs and the Reds are all, they're both like right there, just 3 games above 500. So definitely, the Reds. It's interesting because all these teams, they haven't been awful. That's for sure. Like the Cubs, when they get hot, they get hot. They can hit. They do have their cold streaks, so they're a bit of a streaky team. That's their downside. But when they get hot, they definitely get hot. The Reds, obviously, they've had a great offense all year, but their pitching has been awful. And when their offense shuts down, the whole team kind of shuts down. So it'll be interesting to see how they go this last stretch. I think the Phillies are probably the safest team. They seem like the most consistent of that bunch that's fighting for the wild card. The Marlins, they had their little hot streak. They've been fading lately, but now they're starting to play better. So it's going to be interesting to see. They have a very good pitching staff, I think. So that's always going to help in the race to the wild card. The Giants are a team I think will probably hang on to they're in that second wild card spot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they'll probably hang on to that, and then it's going to be up to the Diamondbacks. Really, their pitching hasn't been great this year. They've had a great offense, but lately they've been sliding down the ladder. So if they can get their offense a spark again, then they could very well make a run. Obviously, the Padres were mentioned in there. I don't think they'll go on a run. I don't think that their offense is good enough the way they've been playing. They've been in kind of a slump lately as well. So it'll be tough for them to break out of that. But yeah, I think definitely, between the Cubs, the Reds, the Marlins, and the Diamondbacks for that last spot in the NL and the wild card, I think any one of them has a real shot just because, they're all good when they catch fire, but they also have their downsides with the streakiness and whatever each team specific thing is.
You mentioned the San Diego Padres, and we back at the trade deadline, we were saying, wonder if we would hold on to Juan Soto or not, and to sit there and both agree that it's the offense that's the problem with the San Diego Padres is almost mind-boggling when you have, the players they have, the gamers. I mean, you got Manny Machado, you've got Soto, you got guys who should, under normal circumstances, be crushing, and they're not. And Soto's a free agent at the end of the season, and he's got Scott Boras as an agent. So that's going to be interesting. I'm wondering if they decide to do, in Soto's case, if they decide to do one of those pillow contracts, where you take a year and play for somebody for a year, and get a lot of money for a year, then hope that you get your stuff back, or do you just say this was an aberration and I'm still going for a big contract?
Yeah, it's tough. In my opinion, his value has gone down for sure since his days on the Nationals.
For the earth, yeah.
And yeah, so especially when it is mind-boggling that the offense is the problem on this team when you look at that lineup. So maybe there's a world where the Padres sees the same thing and they kind of just chalk it up to this is just a down year for our offense. And, we have the pieces there. We should have a better year next year. Maybe we just got off to a bad start and maybe they're holding out for next year with the hopes that maybe they get hot and slip into the wild card this season. But yeah, like they're taking some chances with the money that they've spent. And it's definitely, it definitely makes no sense the way this offense has performed all season.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you can talk Juan Soto into saying, hey, look, let's go for an additional year at X amount of dollars and let's see how we do. We should be doing better and we can, retool a bit of things to get better. I don't know. I think, you never, if you're a free agent, the last thing you want is to have a bad, walk year. And Lord knows, Soto with his talent. I mean, the guy is off the charts talented. He's had nowhere near the kind of year he should have.
Yeah, and you know what? The pitching is definitely there, or at least it's rounded into shape now because between Snell, Musgrove, and we saw Waka come out and pitch great last night. So they got 3 solid starters there. Plus, Yu Darvish can be okay at times. He wasn't great to start the season, but I guess he's pitching better now. So definitely they have the pitching there. Maybe their bullpen needs some improvement, but yeah, like this is a team that when you look at the lineup in the offseason, how do you even improve this offense? These are all players that should be performing, and it's kind of like the same thing what's going on with the Mets, right? Like the pieces are there. It's just a production issue this year, specifically.
Right. And they blew up the pitching staff, so they're going to have to address that in the fall. In the off season.
See, I think the Mets actually handled it better than the Padres because they had these veterans that weren't really pitching well because like I said, Scherzer and Verlander, when they were there, they were great at home, but they were giving up like 3-4 runs on the road. And for the money they were getting, it wasn't worth it. So I think definitely, selling them at the deadline and just kind of saying, look, we know we're not going to make the playoffs this year, but we have the pieces. Let's just hope our offense is better next season because it was great last year. And yeah, just as you said, retool the starting staff with maybe some younger guys a bit cheaper, right? Maybe pick up some guys from the Rays or something. They seem to have a lot of expendable pitchers over there. So yeah,
I think part of the problem is that part of the advantage, I should say, of what they did is they knew when to get rid of these guys. And they go, you know what? There's some value. We can get some pieces back. And it gives them a year to basically work out what they need. And so they can bring some guys up. They can, tootle around and see what's going on. And things might, work out, might break their way. And I think that was probably the wisest, process they could do. And I agree with you on that. And the other teams that decided to hold on to their superstars, San Diego and Anaheim. California, the Angels. You got to wonder, all right, you guys held on to these guys. How did it help you? And the answer to that question is no. And you didn't get anybody for what you have. So it is what it is. And I do agree the Mets are in a better position to know what they need to do. It's now, up to them in the offseason to figure out, how they get there. But I will say this for Philadelphia. They continue to overperform with guys that shouldn't be playing at this level. Kyle Schwarber is a utility player. But when they need him, he seems to step up and just blast the ball out of the park. I mean, he's money when he needs to be money. Bryce is money when he needs to be. Now Turner's starting to get into shape. So they're getting production out of the people they pay to produce. And some production out of people that they didn't pay to produce. So it's kind of like a kind of we've seen this movie. Okay, the Mets last year was the Braves this year. Okay, the Phillies are going to be there in the playoffs, and you're going to have to deal with them. And I wouldn't want to. I mean, they just have that kind of swagger about them that they are not afraid of anybody. Now they may not be as good as the Braves, and that's probably true, but they certainly don't fear anybody.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting because the pitching staff really isn't that great. Like obviously, last year they had Nola, but everybody behind him, Wheeler, Eflin, they really weren't that great, and they still went on that run. And now this year, they're in the first wild card spot, yet Nola is nothing like he was last year. He's having an awful year, and then all of a sudden you have Wheeler, who's pitching much better. So it's very inconsistent pitching staff. And last year, obviously, the bullpen was the big problem. They had one of the worst bullpens in the league. Obviously, that's gotten better this year, but they continue to impress with the pieces that they have.
They also have my favorite name of any player in baseball, Sir Anthony Dominguez. I mean, his first name is Sir Anthony. I mean, that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. His parents obviously saw bigger and better things for him than just baseball. But I mean, it's going to be a very interesting season. And just a quick NFL note: Indianapolis, who we buried yesterday because of Jacksonville, has picked Anthony Richardson, the quarterback out of Florida, for their starting quarterback in this season. They've only played one preseason game. I guess they made the decision to say, okay, just give the ball to Anthony and let him roll.
And yet CJ Stroud is still fighting for a job over in Houston.
Yeah, that's a little. But I mean, people handle these things in different ways. I guess in Indianapolis, they just felt, okay, we don't have much. We really don't have a lot going here. And in Houston, they figure, okay, well, we want CJ Stroud to be the quarterback of the future, but is the future now? And I think I think in excuse me, down in the Tampa Bay situation with Baker Mayfield, I think they just feel more comfortable that Baker, has more upside than Kyle Trask. Trask will play this week, but I don't think. I mean, it's more Baker's to lose than it is Kyle's to win. And I don't think Baker. I mean, Baker has come out and said, "Look, I've got a chip on my shoulder any place I've ever played." And I just feel that it's imperative that I, prove to people that I belong in this league. I don't know why he has to prove to people that he belongs here, but okay, fair enough. Look at some of these guys that came out. I mean, Derek Carr, who's still in the league and playing in New Orleans, and was successful. I mean, there are guys who took a while to get to the point where they were comfortable in playing in the league, but once they got there, they were fine. And I think that's just a simple fact of what's going to happen to Mayfield. Now, whether it's going to happen in Tampa Bay, we'll see. But I think his best shot right there is there because they have a system that he couldn't play in, and I'm not sure that he's had that. A system that fits his skill set, and that's so important in the NFL or in college is to have a coach and a quarterback that play the same system and make it work. And I think in Baker's case, he doesn't have to overdo it. He just has to manage the game well and stay out of trouble, and he'll be fine.
Yeah, I think part of the reason why he feels he has to prove himself still is because he still came from that Cleveland quarterback graveyard that everybody thought was over, but is apparently ongoing still somehow. But yeah, like there's a lot of people I know and I talk to who don't like him and don't believe that he's a good quarterback. So I definitely see why he has to prove himself, or why he feels he has to prove himself anyway. I don't think he has to prove. I know just from his drive and the way that he played, like he played through with a shoulder harness. Like, come on, we're literally judging him off that one season, and I always get the response. It's like, well, even without the injury, he's bad. It's like, how do you even know that? Like, that's such a tough injury to play through. So it's one of those things where I think that the team also gets behind him because they know of his hunger to win. And
Sure.
if you want to talk about, oh boy, what about his attitude, which Cleveland had such a big problem with? Well, we're talking about a team that had to deal with Antonio Brown at one time, so
Right.
I'm pretty sure Baker Mayfield is a walk in the park for them.
Yeah, I think that Jason Light, who is the general manager of the team, made it a point to call him and say, "Look, we want you. We want to sign you to a contract. We want you. We want. I mean, to basically smooth things from day one, to let Mayfield know that you're not here just because we want to see if you can play. You're here because we think that you can lead us. That's a whole different mindset than what happened in Carolina, and then what happens in Los Angeles when he went out there when Stafford went down. So I think that's probably to his advantage. And people forget in Cleveland that every year he was there, they had a different offensive coordinator. So he's got to learn an entirely new playbook every year he's there. So come on.
And when he played for the Rams last year, he was actually really good in those first couple starts. Now, he ended up getting a little near the end there, and people always like to pull on that. But I think, how can you judge him again on that when the guy learned the system like overnight pretty much, and came out and won them a game?
Well, there's that, but the things that they don't mention is the fact that they lost the left guard, the left tackle, and one of the tight ends. So, all right, that's you got 3 starters on your offensive line. He's gone. You've got your So what exactly do you expect him to do? He was playing run for your life most of that time.
Yeah, and by then, who they had was it Cooper Kupp was out, right? So like
Kupp was out.
Yeah, so like they had all their wide receivers are gone. They were basically limping to the finish line at that point.
They had guys who probably had to have my name is tags on them because nobody. I mean, they were signing guys off the street. So it's unfair to judge Mayfield's performance based on the fact that he's playing with your second and sometimes third team players.
Yeah, but now now he's going to have real running back. He's going to have one of the best wide receivers in the league who carries the same mindset and energy that Baker does because he thinks he's one of the best in the league. So, that's going to be I could see that being a good tandem this year. Him and Mike Evans. I think that'll just because it feels like they carry the same energy around, and that's probably why Mike Evans gets behind him because he sees probably a bit of himself in there, just that hunger, that drive to constantly win and be the best.
Well, what I'm being told from folks who cover these people on a daily basis is that the receiver room and the quarterback room, have bonded well, and you've got a lot of good, and I think this is the most important thing for Baker is that they don't have a really big time, home run, Tyreek Hill type speedster on the team, but they've got very good possession receivers, like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and those guys. That'll help him because and they've got a kid by the name of Orton who's a tight end, out of Washington State, and he's again, possession type receiver. He's kind of the guy who at one point was like a baby Gronk. Gronk groomed him to be a good wide receiver. Good tight end. He was injured last year, and now he's back, and he'll be playing full time. So I think that what they've surrounded him with is a group of people that will say, all right, Baker, you don't have to throw, the ball 50 yards down the field. Just, hit the spots. You have guys who are going to get open for you. You have backs who can catch the ball. And, just as I said before, and when I say manage the game, that's not a bad thing. You can manage the game to championships. I mean, look at what Tannehill did with Tennessee. I mean, you can go that far, and people won Super Bowls with managing. But I think the key there is just they're not expecting him to step in and be Brady. They're expecting him to be the best Baker Mayfield that he can be.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm excited to see what they do this season for sure.
We talked about. I mean, this is going to be an interesting year for the quarterback in the NFL. We'll get deeper into that later. But is this year that I mean you're not that far away from Buffalo? Is this the year that we see finally that the Bills get over the hump?
You know what? It's tough to say because every year is the same, but they have a really good team. So
they got athletic players and good players. So we'll see, but we'll get into that a lot closer to the time. So, my friend, any final thoughts and tell people where they can get your information, which we know is right in the down below in the show box, but. Other things that they need to know, some things that they might want to know for today.
Yeah, you can get my plays at bigal.com and pickedvisor.com. The links are in the description below. I have 2 plays on the UEFA Super Cup that's about to kick off in about 15 minutes. And I have something on the Copa do Brazil tonight. And also 3 plays in the MLB, including my AL West total of the year. So you can go get that tonight for sure.
There you go. A little bit of something for everybody there. Okay. All right, man. Folks, thanks very much for joining us. We've had a lot of fun. Amadeus and I will be back here tomorrow to have some fun again. So take your time. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe and plenty of stuff to watch when you get off with us. We'll see you tomorrow and we'll talk about it.